Good afternoon, entities and taxpayers. It's been about 2.5 weeks since I've given you a video, so it's time to do a recap because a lot of things have happened. I've got 5 things to review with you today really quickly. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing green. Happy birthday to Chandler. I'm sure he's seen this. Hey, I got the same birthday week too. I'm 55. You're not near as old as me, but nevertheless. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to have a really short recap of the Wednesday, February 26th board meeting. After that, we're going to talk a little bit about Rick Barnes's open house. Then we're going to get into the meat of what we need to discuss, and that's the very last, number 3, the very last board meeting on Wednesday, March the 12th. It dealt with the reappraisal plan. I presented something, and you need to know about this, especially if you're an entity. Number 4 is Chandler kind of agrees with me and is seeing the slide off a cliff a little bit. And he did a Facebook Live. I want to take a little snippet of. The quality is not that great, but it's something we need to do. And then I've been getting lots of questions since what happened on Wednesday was not good for the entities, especially for those that are going to lose funding. Number 5 is what happens next? Where do we go from here? So let's rewind a bit and let's talk. Issue number 1. On Wednesday, February 26th was the last board meeting, TAD board meeting of February. And basically, we heard 3 things. Thing number 1, we got to hear the tax liaison report, get an update of how that is going. Number 2, we got to hear a report about the lobby traffic and how things have improved. The TAD office and organization has made lots and lots of improvements. Very excited about the CAD coming soon. The software should be better. And then really the third thing that happened in that short meeting was we heard from lots of CFOs as well as board presidents from the ISD entities that are losing funding. They're really much wanting us to reevaluate the reappraisal plan, which we did on March 12th. So it was kind of interesting to hear feedback from some of those that are being hurt by this. At the time on Wednesday, there were 4 ISDs that were being hurt. By the time we get to March 12th, it turns out to be 7. But anyway, we'll get to that. From that short meeting, which ended before noon, on Thursday, February 27th, I had a one-on-one with Callie. I've been working and having one-on-one coffees with every single member of the board. I think it's part of good due diligence as well as relationships. I'm on this board for 3 years. I want to get to know each and every one of my board members just because we want to have a good working relationship. And I'm very excited about working with everybody. Loved Callie. She grew up 3 doors down from where I did in Grapevine. We have a lot of commonalities with our kids and some of our kids' activities and similarities. So very, very good board member there. We may not see eye to eye on everything, but definitely a good working relationship. Then on Thursday, number 2, I got to see and go to Rick Barnes's open house. He's obviously your new tax assessor collector. Got to see where he is, and a lot of people showed up for it. I got to meet fellow county members and other board members as well. It was really, really good time and got to see the organization and meet and connect with some people. You're probably asking, why did you do that? Well, not only is he our tax assessor, but he's also the chairman of the TAD board. So again, it's about relationships. Got to see where he is, and a lot of people showed up for it. I got to meet fellow county members and other board members as well. It was really, really good time and got to see the organization and meet and connect with some people. You're probably asking, why did you do that? Well, not only is he our tax assessor, but he's also the chairman of the TAD board. So again, it's about relationships. From that meeting, I set up a one-on-one with him, which I had on the following Monday on March the 3rd. This was important because I didn't want to surprise him. I wanted to tell him about the 3 options that were going to come up on the March 12th, and really especially about the new option 3 that I'd be presenting. I don't like to be a person that catches anybody off guard, so that was good. Which brings us to number 3, probably the highlight and the most important thing about what we'll spend the most amount of time, which was the board meeting on Wednesday, March the 12th, from which really the reappraisal plan and making some changes to it to help the ISDs was coming for discussion. We started out at 9 a.m. with a work session, and I presented my plan in that work session. It pretty much ate up the entire hour, which then rolled into open session, which started at 10 a.m. During the open session, we heard from quite a lot of districts as well as a few taxpayers giving their feelings about whether we should or shouldn't reappraise. Then at 11 a.m., yours truly, presented option 3 as something to present to my board. And I had a lot of props and everything else. I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm going to show you.
Well, I'd like to open up discussion and present 3 options. I'll do it quickly and succinctly, most of which was done in our work session. But just to recap where we are and some of the issues that are on the table. So I have some visual aids to help us with. The deal we're dealing with is the values of property. And they're ever changing. You can have Chandler and you can sell a piece of property 12 times and you probably get 12 different values. On any given month, those values go up and they go down. And up until this point, up until last year, this was done annually. What we have changed now is we have frozen the values. We've taken a snapshot of values and we want to hold it for 2 years. Keep in mind that this still goes on in the background and changes values. This all sounds fine and dandy, and it's good for the taxpayers, maybe, because what it does is it puts a hold on it for a period of time. Now, I would argue, but I'm not going to argue today, there may be a taxpayer surprise at the end of this. Because the values go up a little bit, they may have that. But that's not what's on the table to be discussed today. What's to be discussed today is how this has, unfortunately, had some unintended consequences. So if we do nothing today, my fellow board, we will have some districts that are going to lose funding. And to my taxpayers out there, it isn't funding that goes back to you. It is taxpayer money that is lost, whether that be in Castleberry or Fort Worth. And as good stewards of taxpayer money, I cannot sit on this board and consider that to be a good decision, which means we have to do something. So we really have 2 issues, 2 ideas that are on the table. And by the way, and nobody has a crystal ball, if we don't do anything, there is a possibility that this entire issue gets taken out of our hands. And I'm a big fan of local control. I do not want this decision made for us, one way or the other, down in Austin. So all eyes are on us to try to see what we can do about this. So here's what's on the table. We have some districts that, right, wrong, or indifferent, whether we decided it or not, we hoped it wouldn't happen, are going to lose funding. So we can reappraise those districts. And a lot of districts are here, that's what this action item is. But I tend to think also that that may be equitably unfair to them. Because as we heard testimony, that would affect some districts, not others. And I believe Fort Worth would constitute like 52% of our county. But this is a solution that we cause by holding down these values. Unintended consequence, mind you. But it is something that this board has done. And as I'm on this board, I take ownership of that to help fix it. Now, it has been suggested, a third idea, which Chandler mentioned and a few others mentioned. And this idea takes into consideration both. We're going from a win-lose to a win, instead of a win-lose on both sides. Is there a possibility of a win-win? Now, Mr. Chandler, you made a good point. If we postpone the freezing of values 1 year, aren't we just kicking this down the road? Well, the answer is twofold. Because part of the problem with this in school districts is all about the timing. We're dealing with timing issues of effects that we do on this board versus effects of the PBS study. And budgets done in districts with our school boards are done almost a year in arrearages. So they can't adjust. So Mr. Chandler, one of the things that would happen by moving this entire idea, just sliding it down a year, is it would buy them budgetary time to adjust accordingly. It would also pull out of a legislative session, which is a whole other conversation, which I'm not going to have, which would also help them out. My final point about this, I do not want to take away the great progress we've done. I just think option 3, we have to change the timing. If nothing else, to give them a time to adjust. Also gives it time to see what else happens in our legislative session. We This is an unintended consequence that's happened to at least 5 or 7 of these districts. There are many others out there that haven't figured it out yet, that won't know. We have to do something, and we have to do something today. That's my recap opinion of where we're at. Other comments?
Okay, from there, we had some discussion about that. Then we went into executive session. And then at 1 o'clock, we came back in and I put option 3 on the table and it went to a vote from which it was 4-4, which means the vote failed, which means the TAD board has elected to do nothing, not to change anything. Furthermore, Mr. Eric Morrison put a vote on the table to table it indefinitely. Now, technically, we could always add it to the future, but we're probably not going to do that because we don't have the votes to do so. Which then, while all of this was going on, Chandler did number 4, a Facebook Live. And I want to show you bits and pieces of this. Sorry, Chandler, it's not the best quality, but it is important because even though he is very much an advocate for the taxpayer, he comes to the same conclusion I do. And that is that this may not be a wise decision we've done because it may be taken out of our hands. Listen up.
I'm live. I am at the Tarrant Appraisal District where the Appraisal District Board of Directors is now in the executive session. And one of the things that they're deciding on is whether or not they are going to agree to reappraise certain school district areas. One of those is Fort Worth ISD. Another one is Castleberry. And there are a handful of others. And I just wanted to mention this. This is one of those things that it's received some headlines in the past, and if they decide to not reappraise them, there is a guarantee now that these few areas will lose a massive amount of funding. And so here's the thing. The appraisal district, if you know me and you followed along at all, then you know that we have made tremendous progress here at the appraisal district, getting rid of corruption and reforming the system. And I don't want to see that progress go away. And to the credit of the newly elected public board members, they showed up and they said, hey, we would love to see these properties not get reappraised every single year. And so where the board has settled on is they said, okay, let's just reappraise every 2 years. And as a homeowner, that sounds great. The only problem is if the lack of reappraisal causes the school district to lose funding, then I can promise you 100% without a doubt that our legislators in Austin will definitely pass laws that will squelch this stuff. And then all of the progress that we've been made will get ruined. We just need to make sure that what happens at the appraisal district doesn't touch it, make sure that it doesn't cause them to it doesn't create so much damage on the public school system that it's going to give Austin the fuel that they need to legislate all of the progress that we've made here. And
okay, so you heard a little bit from Chandler, and that's kind of the recap. That brings me to number 5, what everybody's been asking me. What happens now to the ISDs? Well, to give you my thoughts, sorry, my phone keeps ringing. Ooh, I got to take this. Hello? Am I busy? I'm right in the middle of doing a video for the entities. Spring break, oh my gosh, for spring break, I plan to take the boys either down to San Antonio or to go visit my in-laws. Why do you ask? Austin?